Did you know that the blueprints for the most incredible structures in the world are all missing? We've all been told that these blueprints no longer exist, or they're just in some random archives that are off limits to the public today. The blueprints are their receipt that they actually know who constructed these palaces. I've had enough of these fake stories. It's officially time to show that they have created characters, they've created fake stories to explain away these incredible structures from the old world. Blueprints are the primary evidence of authorship and construction. The blueprints show who engineered the structure, exactly how the loads were distributed, and what methods or materials were used. So without the blueprints, just like we've said, every single claim, their story, the history that we've all been told and tested on about how these structures were built, it's only a story without the blueprints. It's just a narrative. It's not evidence. They have to provide the blueprints, or else their story is made up. It's a fairy tale. It's fake, it's false, it's nonfiction. I believe we are exposing the ultimate historical flaw to this point, right now in real time. Mechanical and structural plans reveal technology levels. If they had these details, the original drawings, it would show which materials they had access to. It would prove authenticity. Just like we've said, the blueprints are the receipt to the building, to their story. Proof that they actually constructed it when they said they did, and by the person that they tell us. The blueprints would and should show the underground tunnels that we've been talking about that were constructed with the building. How are these blueprints missing all over the world? And why are they missing? After all of this research, I believe these buildings and structures don't come with blueprints because these structures were built before the 1800s. And I believe we have the ultimate proof now. Because standard practice by the late 1800s to archive the blueprints, the absence of these plans is exactly what we're going to expose to the world right now. And you will never unsee this. You will now know that we have been correct all along. The Basilica of Our Lady of Sorrows in Chicago, we are being told that it was constructed from 1890 to 1902, meaning that the blueprints should be archived. We should be able to see them right now. There is no comprehensive structural or mechanical blueprints. There are no public catalog or database that explicitly lists the original mechanical structural blueprints for this palace in downtown Shalaga. The blueprints are not present today. The blueprints, the receipt to their story, is not present today. This structure does not have blueprints that prove that it was actually constructed from 1890 to 1902. This is a story that is missing the receipt. At this point, it's a story that me and you could have wrote last night because all of us have as much documentation as them. None. Zero. There's nothing. We just showed that they don't have the original blueprints to this structure. Their story is now null and void. It's done. So if they don't have the blueprints, then we're able to take this even further. They also wouldn't have the load-bearing calculations. They don't have the stress analysis or foundation reports. I literally love this research. We're about to be getting into the emails in future episodes. Episode 154 is going to be shocking. All of these documents, by the late 1800s, it was standard practice for any major stone or vaulted structure, especially cathedrals. It's incredible what you find when you continue to ask logical questions. For a project this size in Chicago, there would be, or there should be, detailed ledger books listing exactly where the limestone or granite came from, who supplied it, how was it transported, and how much each shipment weighed. The exact things we've been talking about for years. Every major quarry and supplier in the late 1800s, they issued receipts and invoices. If these do not exist today, then the logistics of construction were never recorded, meaning that they didn't build the building. They would have things like the construction manager's logbook, dates, weather delays, stone deliveries, payroll ledgers for the people that actually built the structure, expense records for the tools that were used, the hammers and chisels of the past, and how much Donkeys Incorporated costed. If all of that's gone, if they're unable to provide this information for the structures all over the world, the structures that we have shown to this point, then this means that there's no physical paper trail of a workforce ever being here and building the structure. And I'm going to tell you what, we are just getting started today. Welcome to episode 152 of my lunch break. I hope you're all having a great day. And if you're new, welcome. I want to thank all of our sponsors over on Patreon. Thank you to FlatEarthDave.com. You can check out his app, the Flat Earth, Sun, Moon, and Zodiac app. I'll put the link right in the description. And you can use my referral code, MLB. If you click the Tartaria button, you'll see the My Lunch Break playlist right here. The app is awesome. Thank you to Rebecca Kay, David and Sherry Ferguson, Chuck Templeton, Joy Lee, Stephanie Nolan, the Burlesons, Charles Kruger, Dan Woodall, Dale, DJ Clicktrack, Jacob Law, Jim Ribley and Christine Duggan, Kyle Glasscock, BKTFnews.org, Ben Dries NL, Natalie Shippenoff, Melissa Edgar, Biggles, Clayton Lamar, Double Task Homestead, John Adams, Robert Sozolins, Attila Power, Forbidden Gecko Love, Justin Grobner Grubb, Leah Strong, Dakota Dunn, Jason Hochberg, Marie C., Michael Dingyu, Patriot Armory, C3SCOB, SoniaDane.com, James Alt, Jason Press, Miggs, Mark Chapman, Muji and Declan, Ariana Oates, Nathan Burba, Ski, Beacon of Truth, Liberty's Arborist, Thomas Thor Peterson, Zinger Coffee and Tea, Emily Maryland, Curious Cat, Mike D, etc., Dan McGee, Lori Hedvig Johnson, Ellie Annie, Seth Craigo, Glenn Gunderson, Mousie's Mouse Cheese Records, Robert's Brain is Gone, Extreme Reality Check, Late for Dinner, Eolo Goncalves, Blake, William Richard Jeffries V, Dax Bilchek and Son, Dylan Mugenberg, Robert Petro, Katz Hill, Susie Q, Yark 143, GOL, Doc Halo, Kenneth Putt, Brenna Fernandez, Paraduction, Necrodemonics, A&W Kerrigan, Rod Wah, Sweetest of Peas, Corbin Mechanical, Making Bigfoot, Road Warrior, Bruce Latour, Codrenth, David and Irene, Ivan Apocalypse, Ardra Rogers, Brazawayan, Armin Walker, Ivan Apocalypse, Maybell, Laurel L. Burnett, Hoppy John, John and Carlo, Bill, Vince Moreno, Flat Earth Herbs, The Lady Lacey Show, Sven Eric, Tom O'Hara, Ducks MDF TFV, Gabriel Spark, Jeremy and Amy, The Arnolds, Henry's Mom, Digital Strategy, Earth Daughter, Eha Muir, Harvey, First Class Forklift, Bradford's Donkey Wagon Deluxe, Ernieho, Brendy's Brenna, Backyard Rob, DevlinMcGregor.com, D Woods, Valhalla Stars, Trevor Cashin, Lynn Thielen, Charlotte Webb, Tim Skin, ValleyMedicinals.com, David Torres, Lucy, Shiba Shaba in the Darkness. You guys are all awesome and helping this channel out a little. If they cannot produce the original blueprints in full, then we will all know instantly that their mainstream story is automatically unverifiable. There's a specific list that they must provide to us at this point. We need to see the load-bearing calculations, which was required by every single major 19th century city's engineering law. Without load-bearing calculations, no cathedral or government building could have been approved. So they have to have these documents. They have to show us the load-bearing calculations. Or else the story that we read in these books or on these websites or even on their website about the history of these buildings, these stories are false. They're not true. They're not verified. This goes for the Capitol buildings in each state. This includes the basilicas and cathedrals, such as the St. Paul Cathedral, the St. Patrick's Cathedral, and the Cathedral Basilica of St. Louis. They will need to provide material ledgers, invoice records. How did the stone get to the site? And how much did it cost? They were required to document this. We always said it was insane that they didn't tell us this information. But now we're at the point where we know that they were required to document it. How many horses were used? How much did they pay these people? How much did the stone delivery cost? Because by 1850, in both the UK and the USA, it was a legal necessity to document the foundation and soil reports, the tunnel systems and payroll. Another massive key is that they're gonna have to show us the documents, showing that after 1880, any building that was being constructed needed to show that the gas and early electrical systems were being included in the plans. If they were not in the blueprints, this will instantly prove that they were installed after the structure already existed. Where we go to the Cathedral Basilica of St. Louis right now, a palace that doesn't fit in at all in St. Louis. We are all told that it was constructed in 1914. Well, after 1880, the building was required to document when gas and electric was being installed into the building. There is no verifiable public documentation specifying the year that gas or electric lighting systems were installed in the building. Also required is the load-bearing calculations. Without these, no cathedral or government building could be approved. And we all know this. It's common sense. We are all told that the cathedral's archives mention planning and construction records, receipts from the contractors, and specs for design. However, these publicly described archive materials that they talk about, of course, do not explicitly list complete structural engineering blueprints or load-bearing calculations. They also don't include full mechanical structural schematic sets. Among these accessible documents, they don't have the documents that were required at the time. So they literally don't have the records that they would need to provide to prove that they actually constructed this structure in 1907 and 1914. This is a document that needed to be logged. We have shown this, and yet it's not provided to us. And I'm going to take this even further. We are in contact right now with certain individuals, and that's going to be coming up in a couple weeks. Let's take a minute and thank the Donkeys Incorporated Club. The mainstream narrative owes you all a massive apology for not documenting you one single time ever. How are your records just lost in the wind? They just didn't document any of your hard work. If I seriously ever find a record showing that a donkey dragged a single stone to the site, I promise you, I will report it live right here. I appreciate all of our badge members, all of our Patreons, and every single subscriber. You guys are all awesome and helping grow this channel to brand new people every single day. We're on YouTube. We are on Rumble, X, Instagram, TikTok, and Spotify, if you're looking for even more content from us. Load-bearing calculations, what are they? So that every single one of us understand what the mainstream history is not providing. These are the backbone of architecture and engineering. These documents prove that the building structure can physically stand under its own weight and the force acting upon it. Without the load-bearing calculations, a design obviously cannot be approved, financed, or safely constructed. These calculations also show whether the building used granite, limestone, iron concrete, or steel, and how much each of these can withstand. Again, these are structures that are supposedly built in the 18 and 1900s. This is what we're being told. This is not thousands of years ago. This is not negative 400. This is literally like 3 people ago. These are like your grandma's parents. They should without a doubt have these records if they were actually building these buildings. They should show the weight distribution, the geometry, the foundation stability, and the technological level of that era. What tools were being used? What formulas? What in the world was actually going on? Not just some random story that doesn't add up. Just a couple paragraphs about the building, and then they throw in a fire. That doesn't prove anything. And we are all at the next step here. We all know that these stories are nonsense. They are ridiculous. And it is so much fun just shredding them in half. Exposing to everybody in the world that wants to listen that the architects just rode around on their donkey with a hammer, going town to town in the night and constructing palace after palace. We saw one time where a guy built like 55 palaces in like 5 years. We are told that between 1902 and 1907, 5 years, that William P. Ginther was busy constructing a total of 50 palace-like structures. And so I'm going to ask you again, do you think that he constructed 50 palaces in just 5 years? All in different states, He managed them all no problem, and then somehow they all just lit up in flames. Stone buildings burning to the ground, where we all know that stone and brick, that's the thing you put in your fireplace, and none of your neighbors are nervous about it. So now we're all at the point where we want an explanation. I want them to admit it to us, that they don't have these records. And I guarantee you that the person replying to us is going to be stunned themselves, because it's time that the world understands, all of us, that these structures were not built when they say they were. And it is time to officially challenge them to produce this documentation in every single city all over the world, from Budapest to New York, to Chicago, to Paris, to Scotland, and then over to London. I want everybody to admit it to us. I want them to prove that they actually constructed these palaces within the last 200 years, just like we're being told. I want them to prove it. Show us the documentation then. And when they don't do this, when they don't provide a full slate, the original documents to us, over and over and over, this community that we're building, a bunch of people that just want to know the truth. And we're tired of their ridiculous stories. This community, it's going to grow faster and faster. In the 1800s, we are told that load-bearing calculations were required for large civic buildings in Europe and the USA. They were mandatory safety and accountability documents. So where are these documents today? I want to see them. Their absence today. This would mean the loss of proof of construction feasibility. Without these records, historians can only assume that the narrative is true. They cannot prove it. Their stories will be done. It will be over. And I think they might have to switch sides and join us in trying to simply find the truth. Honestly, at this point, if they did produce the documents, the blueprints, and all of it, I'd be shocked. I'd also love to see it. How the heck did they get the donkey to climb up there and chisel the stone and granite perfectly every single time all over the world? Thousands of times. How did they do it? Show us. I'd personally love to see it at this point. It'd be incredible. I'd probably frame it and put it right on my wall, just like they should in their buildings. Show us. But the problem is that we know that we will never see the documentation on this, which will further prove we are correct. But I'm not hoping to not find the information. I just want the truth. So whatever that is, that's what I want to see. That's where all of this began. Do you remember in episode 150? Do you remember what we read from ACOM? Do you see that we are just getting started? Where ACOM told us, this is the group that constructed the 2017 restoration project on Big Ben in London. This group told us that they weren't even documenting the restoration projects in the 1950s and 1980s. So why in the world would a historian ever think to challenge us at this point? They wouldn't. In fact, it's the complete opposite. Any supposed historian, they will know once we are done here that the mainstream will never provide the load-bearing calculations from the 1890s for any structure that was built from the old world. We all know this. Where ACOM, word for word on their website, states that without detailed records, their engineers had to rely on information sourced from old photographs and newspaper articles of the previous restoration works undertaken in the 1950s and 1980s. This was a challenge, they said. Limited documentation of previous repairs right on their website. They couldn't even document restoration projects, let alone the entire blueprints from the original construction, the finance records, every piece of stone, every iron beam, every delivery in the 19th century, where every delivery, just like we've said, in the 19th century, required a signed ledger or railway manifest. If they built these buildings, there would be thousands of pages of shipping records. None exist, and we're gonna get them to admit it. The blueprints were just the beginning, because if they're gone, then so are the engineers' signatures, the insurance records, the inspection reports, the payment receipts, the contracts with the material suppliers, the entire paper trail of human labor. All of it is erased. And if the paper trail doesn't exist today, which I do not believe it does, but we're gonna be proving it soon. If it doesn't exist, then this can only mean one thing. The builders that they tell us about, they didn't construct anything. I say good luck to them, because the end of the mainstream history is coming, once and for all. I'm gonna be leaving no stone unturned. Thinking logically, as all of us are now, we know that the truth is coming. We can feel it, and we're just getting started. Because we have just received an email from the collections department at the Albany Institute of History and Art regarding the Cathedral of All Saints, Albany, New York. And what they replied to me is going to shock the world. Next Saturday, 4:30 p.m. Eastern Time on YouTube and Rumble. Get ready, because the mainstream history, it is all done.